Welcome to A Wild Ride with Brad and BJ.
Thanks for interviewing today. We appreciate it.
We got the one and only Ray Bentley.
We do. Ex-NFL player. So
He's from Hudsonville, like us, so
he is.
one of the boys.
He is a fellow Eagle.
What number did you wear when you played at Hudsonville?
At Hudsonville, I was number 7, and there was a reason for that. The program that Jim Galvin, Keith Burgess, and my dad, Ron Bentley, put together was the 7 steps to success. And we built the whole thing around the number 7, and so naturally, I had to go in there and get number 7 before anyone else did. So that's kind of how it happened.
What position did you play?
I was quarterback and middle linebacker, and I was kicker, and I was punter, and I would have been the snapper and the holder if I wasn't kicking or punting. I sold popcorn at halftime on the big games, too. So they kept me pretty busy.
You just kind of did it all.
Yeah, you know, a lot of people are surprised when they hear that I was a quarterback, but honestly, I was probably, well, I don't know if I was a better quarterback than linebacker in the day, but I had scholarship offers to play quarterback, and I'm kind of glad, but yet curious about that decision. I'd have liked to seen how far I could have gone as a quarterback, but I can tell you it was a lot more fun hitting those guys and getting hit by people like me. So
For sure. What schools offered you?
You know, I had Central Michigan and Western Michigan and Eastern Michigan out of the MAC, and they all Western went after me as a quarterback, but I think they were lying. They were telling me what they thought I wanted to hear, so I would go there, and then they'd shove me into linebacker. Central told me that They wanted me as a linebacker, but wouldn't rule out the quarterback. And if I felt like that's what I wanted to do, I could try it in spring ball my freshman year. And of course, we never talked about it again. I was immediately a linebacker. And then Michigan State they held me right to the brink, right on the end of signing day, and intimated that they were going to have a scholarship for me. And at the last minute, did not give it to me, and I gotta thank the Lord for that one. Because even though my dad had played at Michigan State, and that's where I wanted to go, thought I did anyway, it was Darryl Rogers who was the head coach at the time, and Darryl ended up like a week or so after signing day resigning from Michigan State. He went to Arizona State, and then Muddy Waters was the Michigan State coach, and it was the darkest era of MSU football that any of us can recall. So I dodged that bullet, went to Central, and we won 2 MAC titles. So it was good looking out from above.
Oh, for sure. What questions do you have, William?
Yeah, no, I feel you. It's the interesting paradigm you get with some players where it's like you go to a big school and maybe not have a bunch of success, or go to like a mid-major and then maybe win some titles and stuff. Obviously, they're both big schools, but, Big Ten compared to MAC.
There's no doubt there was a difference in them. And, people ask me about Michigan. And, if you know me and my history, I'm a kind of an anti-Michigan guy. And that came, honestly, through, being raised properly, quite frankly. Where my dad, obviously, being a Spartan, and I grew up in East Lansing and all those things. So I didn't have any love for Michigan, and some of my closest friends were the biggest Michigan fans alive, and it was a great rivalry and all those things. But I ended up having a chance to golf with Bo Schembechler years later. And I finally said to him after we had a few beers and settled in, getting to know each other, I'm like, what was wrong with me, Coach, back in the day? I know you knew who I was. Why didn't I get any attention from you guys? He says, yeah, what were you, 190 pounds? I said, I was 198. He goes, yeah. And he says, we could have got you at 198 pounds, 6'2", 198 pounds, good player, or we get someone else who's 6'4", 235. What would you do? And I said I'd have taken me, and he just laughed at me. But apparently, I didn't merit a Michigan scholarship, which is just as well.
That's very interesting.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting how many college players, like how much they do beef them up, like they get them in the weight room and stuff. But hey, I mean, they miss on people too, so.
Yeah, they're better at it now. Back in my day, they didn't do a very good job of bulking us up. I'll never forget, they bought a bunch of Nautilus equipment my sophomore season, and they changed our lifting, which really wasn't much in the first place. But they had us come in there, and we would do one set on each of these sparkling new machines that they had, and about 20 minutes later, you're done. Well, hell, that was a warm-up, and so I actually had a roommate who was the state of Michigan heavyweight teenage powerlifting champion back when he was in high school, and he was my roommate, and he was still in the powerlifting game. The dude knew everything there is to know about nutrition, supplements, and the proper lifting program. He was light years ahead of his time. I mean, this is the strongest kid in the state for 18 years old. So I said, you know what? I want to show me how to do this, how to get big and strong. So they put a new weight room in Thorpe Hall up on Central Michigan campus that winter semester. And so what I would do was go and I'd do that 20-minute workout warm-up on the Nautilus stuff. And then I'd go over with my boy Frank and we'd hit the serious iron. But I don't know, getting close along to spring ball, the guy who was in charge of our weightlifting, Denny LaFleur, whose nephew is actually Matt LaFleur, who coaches the Green Bay Packers right now. Denny came to me with a big smile on my face, and he says, Bentley, you're my star student. He says, look at you, man. You've gotten huge. This Nautilus stuff must be really good, huh? I'm like, sorry, coach, I don't need to burst your bubble. But it's a warm-up. I use it as a warm-up, and when I'm done here, I actually go get a real workout in. Well, he didn't like that too much, and they ended up getting free weights a few years later and scrapping all that Nautilus crap, which is great if you you're 35 and you used to be a hot chick and you want to tone the arms again. Yeah, go for it. But that ain't how you prepare for football. That's for damn sure. You need real live iron to get ready to play football.
Indeed. So after Central, tell us about your career path.
Well, it was interesting because I had an opportunity to stay at Central for one more year. I could have actually claimed a red shirt on my freshman season. But I had been named the most valuable player in the conference and the most valuable defensive player in the conference. And to be honest, our team, we won the title the first 2 years I was there, and then started slowly slipping. And large part, they didn't have a quarterback, man. And I'm like, do I want to come back here and beat people up again that I've already proven I'm the top dog in this deal, or do I maybe wait for the NFL draft? Or maybe the USFL, which is a league that was just starting up right then. So we did all our due diligence, and I ended up signing with the USFL with the Michigan Panthers, probably, I would say, mid-January. And within a month, I was off to training camp, and away we went. So that's kind of how I ended up. Now, subsequently, I did not get drafted in the upcoming NFL draft. Some USFL guys did. But many years later, I got to talking with Hank Bulla, who was a head coach of the Pittsburgh Maulers. He was in the in the United States Football League. And then later on, he was, famous for the Green Bay Packer defense. And he also was the head coach in Buffalo when I ended up finally showing up there. So I had a long history with Hank, but he told me he was going to draft me with the 11th pick, and this is when he was with the Bengals. So I could have been an 11th round pick with the Bengals had I waited it out, and I'm kind of glad I didn't.
Yeah, all's well that ends well. I forgot they used to have a lot of rounds in the NFL draft.
Yeah, I think there were 12 rounds at that point, and then shortly thereafter they cut her down to 7, like it is today.
Yeah, I think NBA used to be that way too. They used to have a lot of.
Yeah, well, before that, there was even, I think there used to be like 24 rounds of the NFL draft or something. I mean, that's kind of how they did the stocking way back in the day.
Yeah, that's a lot of players. But Tom Brady got picked in the 6th round, so you never know what's out there, I guess.
There you go.
How long were you in the USFL?
All 3 years that we played, and then the league folded, unfortunately. But it was my first 2 years. I was with the Michigan Panthers. We won the title that first year and lost in the longest game in professional football history in the playoffs in the second year. We played into the 7th quarter against Steve Young and his LA Express in that game, and our kicker, also a Central Michigan buddy of mine, Novo Bojovich. Novo missed 3 field goals, 1 in regulation and 2 in overtime inside 40 yards. And Steve Young broke a couple tackles and ended up scoring the winning touchdown on us, and that's how it went. But the following year, Michigan folded, and we didn't necessarily fold. We merged with the Oakland Invaders. And so I ended up going out to Oakland and playing with the Invaders in 1985, and we lost a heartbreaker by 2 points in the championship game that year to the, I don't remember, the Stars, Philadelphia or Baltimore, whichever one they were at the time, but the Stars beat us. And then we actually had a year off because the league had decided, and a major push from Donald Trump, actually, the owner of the New Jersey Generals, to take the following spring off and then go head-to-head against the NFL in the fall of 1986. And there was a big lawsuit that we were all hanging our hat on. We sued the NFL for antitrust, and the verdict came in late July. And so the sad part about that was it was kind of late. If after what happened, the league ended up folding. We won the lawsuit, but the damages was $1. And of course, you treble antitrust award, so it climbed all the way to $3. And I'm still waiting for my cut out of that. But, I'm glad I'm not holding my breath though. But it kind of put guys up against the barrel a little bit because we were expecting to play in the fall with the USFL, and they had actually paid us a third of our salary for that coming year for taking those extra months off. Well, as soon as the league went down, it was a mad scramble. I mean, you think about it, you had a dozen teams in the USFL, and now all of a sudden every one of those guys is free to negotiate with anybody they want. And I ended up down in Tampa Bay in their training camp. And the reason is Jim Stanley, who was the head coach of the Michigan Panthers while I was there. And when the team merged with Oakland the previous year, Jim went down and was the defensive coordinator for Tampa Bay. And so he saw that I was available, and he knew I could play and help him, so he brought me in. The problem was the head coach there, I can't even think of his name right now, but he wasn't a big fan of mine, apparently. I don't know. But the way it went down is it came to the final cut down. In fact, it used to go down to 45 players, not 53. And the next to last cut was 50. So, there's only 5 guys going home in that last one. And usually they find a way to stash a couple on injured reserve or this or that. And usually those guys stick around. But the morning of that final cut, I got the call at about 6 a.m. Not that I was sleeping. And I had to roll over there and get the bad news. And it wasn't really bad news in the long run because I escaped a franchise that over the next 10 years, actually 11 years, lost 10 or more games every season. So I dodged a bullet there, or I put a hex on them, however you want to label it, but I was out of work. And so I went back home to Michigan, and the NFL season's getting ready to start, and I don't have a team. Well, I flew up to Montreal. It was actually opening weekend for the NFL. And I'd actually gone to Buffalo prior to that. After I got home from Tampa Bay, my agent said he couldn't find anybody willing to pick me up. So my dad got on the phone, and he called Hank Bulla, who was the head coach, the aforementioned Hank Bulla, who was the head coach with the Buffalo Bills. And my dad says, hey, you said you were interested in Ray before. Well, he's available now. What's going on? What are you doing? What are you waiting for? And Hank says, I'm trying. So I want to get him up here. I got to get a roster spot. Just bear with me. And so I'm like, okay. And then he actually flew me into Buffalo. And I got a couple-day little workout for him so they could see me and all that. And I could see them, meet them. And then they sent me home. And that was I didn't hear anything. And so I went up to Montreal. And Marv Levy, who had previously been the head coach and general manager of the Alouettes and had led them to a couple of CFL championships, was out of work. He had gotten fired by the Chiefs in 1982, and he was back up there in Montreal. He was bucking for an NFL job, but in the meantime, he was trying to help the Montreal franchise get their legs back under him after a glorious history they had kind of taken to a bit of a swoon. So they brought me up there, and I worked out, and Marv made me a generous offer at the time. It was more than $100,000 U.S. But I told him, maybe in a few weeks, but it kind of broke me up because I was torn. That was money in the hand. I had a wife and 3 kids at home that Mama needed new shoes, baby needed milk. So, but I turned them down, and I told them Buffalo's interested. My lifelong goal and dream is to play in the NFL, and I got to give them a week or two to see how it flushes out. But if they don't get it done in that order of time, I'm hoping you'd still be interested in me. And he said, absolutely, we will. I understand. Good luck going forward, all that good business. And away I went. Well, the next week, I got a call, and Buffalo had found a roster spot, and they signed me. And so week 2 of the NFL season was my first game in the NFL. Now, 8 weeks later, Hank Bulla got fired, and lo and behold, in walks Marv Levy, the new head coach. And I remember that the day they introduced him, I got in kind of the welcoming line, receiving line, whatever the hell it was, because everybody wanted to, make a good first impression, shake the new coach's hand, whatnot, after the meeting. And when I got up to him, I says, you remember me, Coach? He goes, of course I do. Ray, I'm so glad to see you. He said, since you wouldn't come up to Montreal to play for me, I decided I had to come down to Buffalo to coach you. I said, Coach, I'm glad you did. Yeah. And I still am.
That's awesome. That's so cool. So let's talk about the Super Bowls. What was it like just running out to I'm in the Super Bowl?
Yeah, it blows your mind, man. I'm serious. It's hard to put into words. I can tell you when I was introduced, the defense was introduced Super Bowl 25, and we were in the tunnel, and it's hard to recall the details necessarily. I just know I was psyched up out of my mind, and then they called my name, and everyone else had put their helmet on and ran out the damn tunnel, and I had done a really nice job with my Alice Cooper makeup, and I'm like, I don't want to obscure that. So I ran out of the tunnel without my helmet on, and I just, the look on my face, I look like I'm ready to eat raw meat and tear it from limb to limb, and just, I was sky high. I don't even remember my feet touching the ground until I hit about the 20-yard line, man. It was unbelievable. I was freaking shaking. I was so overcome with the emotion, and so then they bring us to the sideline, and then, it's a pretty intense atmosphere. That was the Gulf War had just started, and so we were worried about some sort of terrorist attack. And so there were helicopter gunships circling the stadium the entire night. There were men that you could easily see stationed on top of the stadium, the press box and around. with freaking guns, and they weren't shouldered. They were set up on mounts, so that it was serious. They weren't gonna. It was a great deterrence, but it was also kind of freaky. So you got all that going on, and then Whitney Houston comes out and sings the most stirring rendition of the national anthem any of us had ever heard. I get chills just thinking about it, and I'm over there, and so I'm bawling like a baby. And I'm just an emotional wreck. And I'm thinking, holy crap, this Super Bowl hasn't even started, and I've already peaked emotionally 3 times. Once in the locker room before we came out, once when I ran out on the field, and now, old girl singing that song, and we're all blubbering like babies. I'm like, how the hell are we going to play a football game now? But you have to, so you go in there and went after it. And in that game, I got to give the Giants a lot of credit because they had a really good plan and they executed it well. But I feel like we probably got out coached, but then I also know we also got outplayed. And none of this would be moot, or all of this would be moot, if my old boy made the boot. 47-yard field goal at the end, and we'd all be singing a different song. But it is what it is. But late in that game, they were driving down, and Dave Meggett got a ball on a quick little flare pass. I don't know, probably third. I think it was third down, and they were inside our 20. And I had a good beat on him, so I ran and dove and launched myself, and I hit him. I don't know if you remember Meggett, but short little dude.
Yeah.
Chris Berman, look at that little Meggett go. But his legs were Earl Campbell size. I'm not kidding you. This dude was as stout as it gets. Well, I dove into one of them legs just as the knee's coming up, and it caught me right in the forehead, out like a light. I kind of shake it off. I'm cobwebby. I look up. The lights are blurry, and then they come into focus. And my first thought was, oh, crap, this is the Super Bowl. I got to get up. So I got up. And then my next thought was, oh, I'm not doing too well. I got to get off this field. I can't hurt my team. So I start stumbling towards the bench. And the Giants' offensive right tackle, a guy named Doug Riesenberg, 6'9", 300 what odd pounds. He reaches out, and he grabs my shoulder, and he turns me around. And I kind of look at him like, what's going on? And he's chewing on his mouthpiece, and he says, y'all's bench is on that other side. I'm like, oh, thanks. So I did make it off the field, and I started slowly coming back, but I'll be honest, I was out of it. So we got the ball back. We held them to a field goal on that drive. We got the ball back, and this is our game-winning drive attempt. And we had a couple of timeouts, and we used one of them. We're right around midfield. And it kind of, I thought I had just kind of snapped back to... Did I do that?
I don't know.
Somebody was calling on my phone. I couldn't see you guys, so...
That's all right.
I hit the decline button. I guess it declined you guys, too.
That's all right. We're back. We're back! It's a wild ride! Never know
Where the hell was I? So we're on the sidelines. Everybody's huddled up and gathered around, and I'm like, I get it in my head all of a sudden that, oh crap, I got to get out there. I got to help everybody. This is a Super Bowl, and I'm sitting over here. Forget that. So I grab my helmet, I slide it on, and I take 2 steps out onto the field, and I'm going out there. And it's our offense that's out there. That's not going to work out too well. And a hand snatches me from behind, and I found out later I knew who it was at the time. Bud Carpenter, our assistant trainer. But I found out later he had been assigned to watch me. And he just caught me by the scruff of the neck, horse-collared me. He says, whoa, where are you going, big fella? And I'm like, he's stupid. I'm like, it's the Super Bowl. I got to get out there. He goes, yeah, you can't get out there. Your helmet's busted. I'm like, what? Really? Yeah, give it to me. We'll get it fixed. Then you can go out there. So I take the helmet off, I give it to him, and I never saw that damn thing again. They went and hit it. So I couldn't go out there without a helmet, so that solved that problem. But we get a decent gain, and we're lined up, and now we're ready to kick a field goal, and I'm almost back to, normal, if you want to call it that. And I see all our guys on our team are holding hands and taking a knee on the sideline. Well, I have never been a hand holder or a knee taker. So I'm like, what in the hell are they doing? And Shane Conlon, who is very similar in his regard to those things, said that what I can't even repeat other than that they're trying to help Scotty, whatever. And I'm like, oh, cool. I said, you want to hold my hand? He goes, sure. So we didn't take a knee, but we held hands. And then when he first kicked that kick, I thought it was good, man. I'm like, oh yeah, because my angle, because it was close, no more than a foot or two wide. And I start to get excited, but I'm looking on the field, and I see all our guys' heads go down, and I see the Giants going crazy. I'm like, well, he must have missed it. So that's kind of how it went down, and it was pretty rough, man. It sucks losing a game like that, especially when we had already beaten that Giants team at their stadium in December, like 5 weeks earlier. We were a better football team than them that year. We probably did ourselves the most damage when we knocked Phil Simms out of that game when we played him in the regular season. He didn't even play in the Super Bowl. Jeff Hostetler did, and that led to a different kind of game plan where it was play action and quarterback moving around and running. Whereas we liked Phil Simms because he sat there in the pocket like dead meat and we got after him. He couldn't get out of the way. Now it kind of neutralized our pass rush, which was obviously with Bruce Smith and Cornelius Bennett getting after people. I mean, we had a damn good pass rush. So that was a big part of how we did things, try to get a lead and then get them into that passing mode and then just feast. Well, that doesn't happen when Hostetler is the quarterback. And the other thing that I remember from that game is we had them in 3rd and long up to a half a dozen times. And in particular, like 3 times on one of their scoring drives, the one right before the half. Had them in 3rd and long. And when we were in 3rd and long, it was a problem for us all year. And what they would do is they take out our linebackers, who were our good tacklers, and put in some faster cover guys to match up with the team, opponent's personnel. Well, the problem with that was we didn't tackle well enough, and they broke several tackles and ended up getting first downs after first downs, and then you get worn down, and then they get a little momentum, and then what happens next is what happens. So it had been a problem for our team all year, and it reared its ugly head in the Super Bowl. We never fixed that. That was a kind of a shame. Believe me, I lobbied like hell. And I know the coaches all thought it was selfish as much as anything, just because I didn't want to come off the field. But I made my case. I'm like, hey, we're not, just play zone and let us come up and we'll make the tackles, and they won't get those first downs. You don't have to play man to man, and then even if you do, let's blitz and do it, so that we can have better personnel tackling wise on the field in these situations. No, didn't want to do it. I did convince him to do it one time when we played Houston, and they had that run and shoot offense. And I kept telling them all week, don't do it. But we started out in the nickel and went to dime, and we weren't playing very good on defense. And the 3rd quarter come along, and I'm looking at the head coach or the defensive coordinator, Walt Corey, and I'm like, I didn't even have to say nothing. He knows. All right, damn it. Put regular out there. We'll give them a try. And we shut them down and won the ball game. But they didn't learn their lesson from that. Every time we still played a heavy passing team with a lot of wideouts involved, they felt they had to match up with the little guys to run with little guys, and it ended up costing us. So who knows what would happen? But that's my piece. That's what I'm going with.
I mean, who knows? You could have been the quarterback of the Buffalo Bills.
God forbid, but yeah. They got a good one right now, I'll tell you that.
That's
and
for
we
sure.
had a good one back.
So me and Rod, we watched the documentary on Buffalo, getting ready to talk to you about your interview. And so, were you on the team for how many years were you on the Bills?
I was there through the first two of the Super Bowls. I was there for 6 years. I came in '86 and left after the '91 season, the '92 Super Bowl.
Oh, so you played in 2 Super Bowls?
Yes.
Wow.
He's a big deal, dude.
I didn't say he wasn't.
Yeah, just
Yeah, I mean, you guys are right there. It seems like, we're...
Yeah, the second one, we played the Redskins, and they were the best team that year, and we fell apart before that game even started, though, man. It was one of the worst weeks as I look back on it in my entire career. We had guys shooting their mouths off. We had a coach who lost his mind to the point where he's saying derogatory things about the Redskins' offensive line, the Hallmarks, as if they needed any more incentive. He just mocked them. He said those guys, the problem with those guys is they got pointy little chins, and my guys got flat heads, so we're going to put our flat heads on their pointy little chins and push them around all day. Just crazy stuff. He was out of his mind. And he got fired afterwards. But we find out that the clips of him saying this stuff, so the Redskins, they did their meeting before the game, the night before, and at the end of the meeting, Joe Gibbs, their head coach, he puts on the video of our coach, Chuck Dickerson, spouting off and saying all those things and doing all that, and just plays the video and then walks out, didn't say a thing. This guy's a freaking genius, man, because they were so mad, so hot. We'd already lost the damn game. And then you had Bruce and Thurman. I love Thurman Thomas, and I love his spirit as a warrior, but, man, he acted childish that week. So we go into our hotel, and they have it's media day, and they have a big podium in the middle, and they got Jim Kelly's name on it, and they got a little one off to one side and a little one off to the other side. One says Thurman Thomas, and the other one Bruce Smith. And then there are no other podiums, just tables and chairs around the room. But those guys were big enough to have podiums. Well, Thurman comes in, looks around, what is this? Goes, how come Jim got the big podium? Oh, I only get a little podium? And he's all making a big deal out of it and storms out and doesn't do the press conference. So the next day, they got rid of the big podium, and all 3 podiums were the same size. So just that they catered to his, that bothered me as much as him acting that way, that they actually catered to it. I knew then, well, we're in a world of hurt, man. Our minds aren't right. This is a bunch, and they're letting it go on. Nobody's saying, oh, no, this ain't how we do it. Now, come on, we got here a certain way. Let's stay that way. No, nobody said that. They just coddled him, and whatever he needed. Oh yeah, they ran around like they were scared of him. I was just beside myself. But whatever, But I did not have a good feeling going into that one. And to make matters worse, on a personal note, I was on the opening kickoff team, and I had strained my calf 2 weeks, or not my calf, my quad 2 weeks earlier in the AFC Championship game against the Denver Broncos, and I nagged it a little bit during that week in practice, so I was a little nervous about it, but I felt fine. I ran through warm-ups, no problems, nothing. So on the opening kickoff, I make my approach, and as soon as Norwood hits the ball, I dig down, and I'm trying to run as fast as I ever have in my life, and I pop my quad like a spring, and I can't run. I'm not totally debilitated, but I'm at about 75%, I would put it at. And that's in a full straight run. Now, I can negotiate between the tackles still pretty decent, but where it got me was a straight, flat run. So I came out, I told them, man, I think I'm messed up here. So they taped a wrap around my whole leg. I don't know if you've ever seen one of those, and it went around my waist. So I mooned the whole crowd in the dome. I didn't care up in Minneapolis. I pulled my pants down to my knees, and all I had on was a jock strap. So there's my bare white ass out for everybody to see. I didn't care. I needed to get taped up. So they taped her up, and it gave me some relief. it helped lift the leg a little bit, the tape job, but I was not above 80% by any stretch, and so I went out and they had put in a backup for me. Well, ends up Shane Conlon gets dinged. He's our other starting inside linebacker. So now we're both down, and so Walt Corey, my defensive coordinator, looks over at me, says, "You ready to go?" I said, "Yeah, I am, Coach. Just keep me out of man for a few plays so I can get my feet under me." All right. So I run back out of the field. What's he called? 51 Red Dog. Guess who has man-to-man on the damn back? Yeah, yours truly. So I was like, come on. So I saw what they were doing. I knew the play. They were going to run the back that I had on a wheel route up the field down the sidelines. And I knew it was coming because I think they knew, oh, he's got a bad leg. Let's run his ass. So I lined up about 6 yards deep instead of the normal 4. And on the snap, I took one shuffle and started running to where I knew that guy was going to be. Quarterback saw me back there, said, "Oh, no, that's not going to be open," and threw it somewhere else. There's no way in hell I would have covered that guy or tackled him. There's no way. But I used a little guile to get him not to throw it that way. And I was able to play probably a quarter, and I played into the third quarter. And they took me out when the Redskins ran their counter tray, their famous play, and Joe Jacoby, he looks like you, Red, only on steroids for about 100 years. and they pull him around on that counter trap, and I run up into the hole and set my shoulder and lean into it. I'm ready to take it on. He hit me, my ass went a winding, man. I must have rolled 3 or 4 times. And the problem was, it was my leg that I was based on, my power leg, totally gave out. It was injured. And I went winding, man, and they saw that, and they're like, "Yeah, he's going to get killed if we leave him out there." Because I wasn't ready to come out by any stretch.
Right.
But they pulled the plug on me, and so I sat there and watched the last quarter and a half. And we made a few little rumbles towards a comeback, but it was not meant to be, and oh boy, we got spanked pretty bad. It was a rough way to go out.
Yeah, for sure. But it's almost time for you to go pick up your wife.
Yes.
So
it is.
we appreciate you coming on. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, thank you for taking the time to interview with us.
Thank you, BJ. Thanks, Red.
Love you.
Nice meeting
Love
you.
you, brother.
See ya.
All right. See you guys.